Creating custom Pokemon for you! Welcome back, everyone, to the show where we select lucky commenters to spin a series of random wheels that give us factors for a Pokemon that we then create just for you. It's gonna be an awesome episode today, y'all. We have 4 amazing custom Pokemon as always, but before we get started, I do have some quick reminders. First of all, if you end up liking today's episode, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And of course, if you want a custom Pokemon, all you have to do is leave a comment under this video because I'll be randomly selecting people from this video's comments for the next episode. That's right, everyone who gets a custom Pokemon is just randomly selected from the comments. It's just most fair that way, but it also makes it way more important to subscribe with the notification bell turned on, because if you got a custom Pokemon but didn't see the episode, there's basically no point. I mean, you wouldn't even know that you got one, which would be an absolute tragedy. Don't let it happen to you. Subscribe now. And without further ado, let's get into the first Pokemon. And this one will be for Twisty77. I'm glad this series makes your day. So alright, Twisty, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be a Convergent Evolution for the first Pokemon. That's pretty cool. And it means that now we have to spin this wheel to see what generation of Pokemon we're making a Convergent for, and it's Gen 2. I think that's a first for the series, so that's high. And of course, now we have to spin this wheel that has every single Gen 2 Pokemon on it, and we got Mantine. That's actually a super unique Pokemon. This should be fun. And now let's spin the typing wheel to see what new typing we'll be giving to this Convergent Mantine. Your first type is the Psychic type. That is definitely very odd for Mantine, and Psychic Flying. Not gonna lie, that is going to be pretty difficult, but hopefully it turns out cool enough. And the last step before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and none this time. While in the Johto region, this Pokemon can be seen swimming below the water. In some desert regions, it can be seen flying in the sky. Introducing the first stage of your Pokemon, Mankite, the Magic Carpet Pokemon. These Pokemon are extremely rare and highly sought after due to their ability to almost always escape capture. Their flight patterns are incredibly unpredictable due to having no obvious method of propulsion, seeming to zip around using nothing but their psychic abilities. However, the strangest thing about this Pokemon actually has to do with its nefarious relationship with Aipom. That's right, this Pokemon is known to team up with Aipom, piloting them to nearby desert merchants before hiding away, waiting for the Aipom to steal valuable food items before taking off into the sky with the valuables in tow. A certified Pokemon getaway driver. Upon reaching level 20 with an Aipom in your party, it would evolve into Enchantine. These Pokemon have now formed a fully fledged bond with their Aipom, with the two being completely inseparable. In fact, they've even formed their own battle methods, involving Enchantine moving around and dodging enemy attacks at high speeds, while Aipom hurls objects at the opponents from above, making for one of the most unpredictable fighters in the Pokemon world. In terms of stats, this Pokemon is very focused on its speed, but the rest of its stats are relatively decent. And for the shiny, I went with a reference to the carpet from Aladdin by making the colors a bit richer. Which, by the way, Aladdin is one of my favorite movies of all time, which made this Pokemon a lot cooler to me. Like, I seriously think it's my favorite regional variant we've done in the entire series, which says a lot because we've made some really cool ones. But now let's get into the second Pokemon. But before we get into that, there's no sponsor for today's episode, so I'd love if y'all could give me a quick second to plug my channel membership. Right now, becoming a channel member is the absolute best way to support the custom Pokemon series by far. I'd like to consider what we do over here pretty high effort. I always have the goal of making each and every episode better than the last one every time. And part of doing that has been building an elite squad of Pokemon fan artists to employ for the series, and they've been absolutely killing it lately. I swear the designs of the recent episodes have been absolutely insane, and I have them to thank. But I also have them to pay, which I'm not complaining about. In fact, I think it's absolutely awesome that the series can create a situation where multiple different people are getting paid to draw Fakeamon. Like, that's awesome. And if you think that's as awesome as I do, and you feel like this series has put enough value into your life to justify spending a little bit of extra money on it, then I would absolutely love if you consider becoming a channel member by hitting the join button down below. Now, I want to be clear, if you're just watching the episodes, that is absolutely more than enough. I'd appreciate if you hit the subscribe button and like and stuff like that, but if you're just watching the videos, that is more than enough. I'm just saying, for those who can and want to, the channel membership is the best way to support for those who feel like doing that little extra step. But yeah, big thank you to those who are channel members already, and for those who become them down the line, I really appreciate it, but let's not take up any more time and get back into that second Pokemon. And this one will be for Ryder Kerrigan. I'm glad you watched the entire series, and here's your own custom Pokemon to celebrate. So alright, Ryder, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be regular.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Now let's see how many times your Pokemon can evolve, and you are going to get 1, which makes you a 2-stage evolution line. Now let's see what typing your Pokemon's going to be. Your first type is going to be the ground type. That is awesome. That is my favorite type of all time. And ground poison type. That's actually really cool typing. And the last step before you see what your Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and you do, a Mega Evolution. That is always the most hype one. That is incredible. In modern times, these Pokemon are little more than a joke, but they were once great warriors. Your Pokemon is Terratot, the terracotta Pokemon. These Pokemon are known to have very bad attitudes, always trying to pick fights with much larger and stronger Pokemon, despite nearly always losing. And to make the perception of this Pokemon even worse, it's been long believed that despite being so weak, this Pokemon also lacks the ability to evolve. However, a recent discovery proved this wrong and unlocked this Pokemon's very interesting history. Because when brought to a location known as the Conqueror's Tomb, Terratot would evolve into Quincata. Long ago, these Pokemon were the soldiers in the army of a great conqueror. And when that conqueror passed away, they requested that their army be buried alongside them. And so for hundreds of years, the most powerful of this Pokemon species laid buried below the surface, forever guarding their leader's tomb. And now that they've been unleashed, they're ready to find a new leader and begin a new conquest. Will it be you? When exposed to Quinite, it would evolve into Mega Quincata! Long ago, these Pokemon would have been the generals in the Conqueror's army, commanding groups of its non-Mega evolved forms across the battlefield. And in modern times, this has not changed at all, with these Pokemon often ignoring their trainer's commands, believing their own battle strategies to be superior. In terms of stats, this Pokemon has very good physical attack and solid defenses, but it does suffer in the speed category. And for the shiny, I darkened the body and made the purple energy green just because I thought it looked absolutely sick, sort of like Ben 10. I don't know, it gave me that vibe for some reason. Also, if it wasn't clear, this Pokemon is inspired by the Terracotta Warriors, which if you don't know are a collection of Terracotta Warrior statues that guard the tomb of General Chen Shi Huang, which I know for a fact I probably just mispronounced, but it's something I've been really interested in since the first time I heard about it. There's like a ton of these statues. It's actually super cool. And I thought it was an absolutely perfect inspiration for these Pokemon because they're made of terracotta, which fits the ground type, obviously. But also, apparently in the tomb, there's large pools of mercury, which makes researchers not want to explore those areas for fear of mercury poisoning, which seemed to fit the poison type perfectly. I don't know, that just made so much sense to me. I hope this Pokemon is as cool to y'all as it is to me, because I think it's absolutely sick. But now let's get into the third Pokemon. And this one will be for Anna Tonoli, so, you know, calm down. So alright, Anna, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be regular. I can assert with absolute and unwavering certainty that there exists no conceivable deviation, moral imperfection, or logical fallacy inherent with such an occurrence, action, or sentiment as to warrant even the faintest suggestion of impropriety, error, or disapproval about that. Now let's see how many times your Pokemon can evolve, and you are going to get 2, which makes you a full 3-stage evolution line. Now let's see what typing this Pokemon's going to be. Your first type is going to be the Bug type. That is good. I think it's pretty rare in our region. And Bug Fairy type, another rare type in our region, so that's great. And the last step before we see what your Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and you do, a signature ability. That's high. Get ready to meet one of the most surprising Pokemon of the entire series. The first stage of your Pokemon oh, that usually doesn't happen. The first stage of your Pokemon is, man, this is getting weird. The first stage of your Pokemon, I said the first stage of your Pokemon. What kind of show are we running here? I said the first stage of your Pokemon is Papa, the sudden surprise Pokemon. This Pokemon has a very interesting method of hunting, often curling itself into a small ball and waiting for weaker Pokemon to approach, at which point they burst alive, attacking the foe before they even have a chance to react. At level 12, it would evolve into Jestar. These Pokemon are incredibly entertaining and know several party tricks. They can juggle berries, perform hypnotic dances, and even produce catchy tunes. So trainers who catch this Pokemon will be forever entertained or incredibly annoyed. At level 35, it would evolve into Chrysliquin. These Pokemon have turned their many entertaining talents into weaponized distraction. In battle, they appear to be performing for the enemy, doing several tricks until the opponent is sufficiently confused and striking a deadly blow. And this is reflected in its signature ability Surprise, which states that the first move this Pokemon uses in battle will always have priority no matter what the move is, allowing for some truly tricky plays that no mofo could prepare for. In terms of stats, this Pokemon has good speed, good offenses, but its defenses are simply not great. And for the shiny, I went with this dark red and black as a reference to Harley Quinn, which I thought was a really cool theme. But now let's get into the fourth Pokemon. And this one will be for Red Raptor. I also like when we get to make combinations that have never existed before. That's like one of my favorite things. So alright Red, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be a fossil Pokemon. That's actually super rare and some of my favorite to make, so that's all. Now let's see how many times your fossil Pokemon can evolve, and you are going to get 0, which makes you a one-stage fossil, sort of like Aerodactyl. Now let's see what typing your Pokemon's going to be, besides of course the rock type, and it is going to be the fighting type. There's never been a fossil that's fighting type, so that's actually crazy. And the last step before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and none this time. This Pokemon is the exact opposite of chill. Taking a hammer fossil to a lab would revive Stegosled. These Pokemon wield their own hammer-like tails as a weapon in battle or as a tool to destroy rocks, which is actually how they eat because they consume the ores that can be found inside. But what's truly notable about this Pokemon is its aggression, especially towards its fellow fossil Pokemon. That's right, for some reason it seems to hate its fellow fossils, attacking them without warning whenever it sees them. But it doesn't stop there, because this Pokemon's rage isn't just contained to the revived form of the fossil Pokemon, it even hates to see their fossil form. So if it ever sees a fossil in a cave system while it's trying to feed, it will straight up destroy it instantly. In terms of stats, this Pokemon has very good HP as well as physical attack, with the rest of its stats just being decent. And for the shiny, I made it skin gray, which makes the whole design different shades of gray, which to me just looked awesome for some reason. Kind of reminds me of the Mega Knight from Clash Royale. I don't know if that's just me, but I noticed that. But that's gonna do it for today's episode, y'all. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe before you go. And if you want to watch more episodes just like this one, you can find a bunch in this playlist. And again, if you can, please consider becoming a channel member by hitting the join button down below. I appreciate all of you for watching. I'm gonna get right back to making some awesome custom Pokemon, so I'll see y'all in the next episode. But until then, peace.